and welcome to another edition of I Hate Fantasy Football. It's week 12. We haven't had a fantasy football, or I hate fantasy football since before the season started. And we're just going to blame Josh on that. So he goes bad because his team is no good. And then he decides he doesn't care about you guys. But I still do, so we're going to have another edition of I Hate Fantasy Football. So let's go ahead and talk about our week 12 schedule real quick. Glad we went over to this format because couldn't have worked out any better, as Kyle and I are going for the number 1 seed. Winner of this week's challenge will go for the number 1 seed, which means that we get to go up against the number 4 seed, which is quite an advantage. The number 4 seed is actually still being battled out. Ryan is going up against Gus in a win and you're in situation, which is good for Ryan. Tom and Lisa still have a chance to do it, though. If Ryan loses and either Lisa or Tom, who are battling it out, outscore Ryan by enough points, they can get in. I believe Lisa needs to get somewhere around 55 points and Tom needs to get somewhere around 30, but that can happen. So Ryan, you still have a chance to not be part of the playoffs. Tom and Lisa still do have an outside chance. And I think that's one of the beauties of this new schedule that we put together, having that opportunity to battle it out. One quick note, if that does happen, if Ryan loses and any one of those 3 get in, it'll be the first time in league history that we have a team that is 6-6 make it to the playoffs. I found that pretty interesting. One more quick thing about that schedule. I know I didn't talk much about the lower brackets because really, who cares? It's all about the upper brackets, the playoffs, only because I'm in, of course. But if either Tom or Lisa lays a dud and Jeff wins and outscores Tom or Lisa, it will put him into that 5-6, the number 5-6 seed game, which if you are in that game, that means there's no possible way of going to the toilet bowl. So they could play their way out of that and have to fight to stay out of the toilet bowl in the end, although we all know who's going to be there. Sorry, Josh. So Tom earlier this week brought up the margin of victory question. He is asking, since Gus was beaten down on Josh pretty badly, if that was the biggest beatdown that there's ever been. And so I went back into our league history and took a look at some of our biggest beatdowns. I like to run down the top 5. Before I do that, though, numbers 6 and number 7 on the list was kind of funny, as it was when Peter was still in the league and he stopped setting a lineup. So those are numbers 6 and 7, is when Peter lost by not setting a lineup. But he did not make the top 5. So before we go to the top 5, though, let's talk about the fact that I eliminated any playoff matchup. Playoff matchups are 2 weeks, and so I didn't think that was fair to look through those. Even though as I was kind of glancing at them, there's only about 2 or 3 that actually went over 100 points as far as the difference in the scores. I thought that was kind of interesting too. Looking at them, I started to write down those that were in this, like there was like a 60-point difference or a 70-point difference, and it just got to be too many. There was a ton that were between 60 and 70. A lot of games ended with that big of a difference. So I didn't eliminate those, but those didn't make the top 5 clearly. But I was surprised to see exactly how many there were. I didn't count them because there were just too many to count. All right, so numbers 5 and number 4 both come from the same season. They both come from the season 2014. They actually came in back-to-back weeks, and the loser on the end of those games were actually the same person. In 1 week, in week 8, Lisa beat Jeff. The score of that game was 204.1 to 92.6 for a difference of 111.5. That's number 4 on our list. Number 5 actually came the next week when I played against Jeff, and I beat him. Final score of that game was 151.7 to 54.3. That is a difference of 97.4. That's quite a difference. So that was numbers 4 and 5. Those were back-to-back weeks in 2014. Interesting note about that season, that was Jeff's second season as part of our league, and his team was really bad. He actually finished that season 4 and 8. He ended up being in the toilet bowl and losing and getting his team name renamed by Gus. So number 3 comes to us from the 2015 season. This was the season where Tom went 1 and 11. This is the season where Tom failed to score 1,000 points for his total points scored for the entire season. The only time in our league history that somebody failed to score 1,000 points. Inexplicably, Tom did not finish in last place. Kevin did. In week 3 of that season, in week 3 of the 2015 season, Gus beat Tom 176.5 to 62. That is a difference of 114 points, a little more than 114 points. That is a lot of points. Man, Tom was really, really bad that season. So number 2 on our list comes to us from last week, that game that Tom was talking about. As Patrick Mahomes was putting up touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, Gus's score was rising and rising and rising. In fact, it could have been even worse. Mahomes had 5 turnovers, 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles in that game. So Gus actually lost 10 extra points there. So Gus ended up finishing by winning that game 184.9 to 67.4. That is quite a beatdown. That is a difference of 117.1 points. That stands as our number 2 biggest beatdown. And again, remember, Gus lost out 10 points to all of those turnovers by Patrick Mahomes, especially that one at the end where he just kind of chucked it in the air and gave it to the other team. But even with those 10 points, Gus would not have made it into the top 1. He would not have been number 1. Number 1 was our biggest beatdown ever. Our number 1 biggest beatdown comes from the 2013 season, week 9 of the 2013 season. And once again, Jeff, you are on the wrong side of this beatdown. And guess who's on the right side of this beatdown? That's right, yours truly, the one that's going to win it this year. In week 9 of the 2013 season, I scored a whopping 189.5 points, which is really just a regular week for me this season, but 189.5 points. And in that game, Jeff, you scored 56.2 points. That is a difference of 133.3 points. Biggest beatdown in our league's history. And of course, who came out on top? And that'll do it for another week of I Hate Fantasy Football. We'll try to come back with the playoff episode, but I hope you enjoyed this. We'll talk to you next time.